between you and Senator Pavley to kind of work on one part of the bill and transfer that to Senator Pavley's bill. So
yes.
we won't. So that will be discussed also.
Yes. The concern, Mr.
Excuse
Chair.
me, Senator.
Okay.
We have a quorum.
Oh.
That's a rare event this early in the morning. Secretary, please call the roll.
Lowenthal?
Here.
Lowenthal here. Runner? Here. Runner here. Alquist? Blakesley? Hancock? Here. Hancock here. Huff? Blue? Blue here. Price? Semidian? Here. Semidian here. Vargas? Here. Vargas here. You have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Please continue, Senator.
You know, SB 268 sets forth a process of recognizing interdistrict transfers. With so many school districts and so many young people trying to transfer from one district to another, this sets forth a kind of straightforward process for achieving that. This is a bill sponsored by the LA Unified School District, and let me say they have some 9,000 or 10,000, as you see in your analysis, transfers that they do. They have 200 or 300 that go into appeal. This is trying to set forth a process. Many of you remember Virginia Strawn Martin, who is now with the LA Unified School District, and she's here to testify on behalf of the bill, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So, as I understand, that there are three parts of the bill right now. The first part, we specify the scope and the review by a county board of education, and you really clarify exactly the role of the county board of education. That still remains in the bill. The part about the 2 months or no decision by the two governing boards and the time, I think we're going to remove that because of changing the first part and changing the role of CBA. Right. And the third part of the bill, where you provide the parent or guardian who is physically employed in that other district, I believe that part of the bill will be now taken up by Senator Pavley. Is that not correct? Good. We're all on the same page. Will Virginia Strawn Martin, is she around? Will she please?
Thank you.
There you are.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I am Virginia Strawn Martin, now representing Los Angeles Unified School District, and we have worked long and hard on this bill with the Senator's office, and we thank them very much for all of that work. And so our goal really is to put in statute a very fair, efficient, and consistent process for interdistrict permit appeals. Right. We believe that this bill will benefit all parties, including parents and students, most importantly, when we have clear and consistent criteria for deciding appeals. I have with me today our expert witness, Melissa Schoonmaker, and she is the district's coordinator from the Office of Permits and Student Transfers, here to testify on the bill.
Good morning, Senator Lowenthal and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today in support of Senate Bill 268. In my work with interdistrict transfers, it's become evident that there is a need for neutral standards of review within the permit process. Under current law, there are no standards set for the appeal process. Neutral standards will ensure consistency and clarity in the process for all parties involved. The LAUSD interdistrict permit process affords parents with many opportunities to present information. As part of this process, parents can share their concerns. We ask for follow-up documentation if the application is incomplete, and we explore attendance alternatives within the district. We've been very fair and extremely accommodating in reviewing parents' requests and assisting them through what can be a very stressful, confusing, and time-consuming process. This past school year, we granted over 10,500 interdistrict attendance permits. 330 appeals went to the county office. Of those, the county board granted 107 permits for students to attend another school district. I would like to take this opportunity to clarify the proposed language to address some of the questions that were raised. First, adding the neutral standards should further support due process and fairness for families. Section 46601B2, B4, for example, specifically requires a county board to consider additional information from the parent that hadn't been considered by the district previously. This should capture any situation that a parent may present and can easily be included in that county's board policy. The other neutral standards proposed in this legislation will only enhance and ensure fairness and clarity for all the districts in the state. I'm seeking your support for this bill in order to provide the much-needed clarity, consistency, and fairness to this process for all school districts in California.
Thank you. Are there other witnesses in support? Are there witnesses in opposition?
That'd probably help them.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. Pamela Gibbs, representing the Los Angeles County Office of Education. We most regrettably oppose SB 268. We appreciate the author's intent, but as County Board of Education and County Office of Education, we do adopt our own board policy, and we think for the 80 school districts within the county that is sufficient for us. We review the appeals. We've granted many in the favor of LAUSD. And in addition to my testimony, I have Dr. Victor Thompson, Director of the Student Support Division at LACO, and also one of our consultants, Maria Bravo, for technical assistance.
Thank you. Please continue.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee.
Introduce yourself, please.
Yes, my name is Victor Thompson, the Director of Student Support Services for the Los Angeles County Office of Education. And as was mentioned, we regretfully express our concern about opposition to this bill. Our concern is the county board serves 80 school districts in Los Angeles County, each of which have unique governing board policies and regulations. Some districts have only 3 criteria for release on an inter-district permit, while others may have 10 to 15 reasons. Some districts have no levels of appeal at the district level, while others may have up to 4 levels. The county board criteria is based on decades of experience and is broad enough to provide equitable consideration for all students and parents of the 80 school districts. We believe that limiting the criteria to that proposed in the bill will create disadvantages to those the appeal process was designed to serve, the parents and students. For example, if a school district only had 5 criteria and the parent was appealing based on other criteria, what would be the motivation to file an appeal? The inter-district appeal process was again created to allow parents the opportunity to file an appeal. Not allowing parents to provide relevant information will only limit their opportunities to successfully defend their case. Mrs. Bravo.
My name is Maria Bravo. I'm a consultant in Division of Student Support Services in the Child Welfare and Attendance Unit. Good morning. Just to kind of speak on what Ms. Schoonmaker has addressed, in terms of providing parents with a fair and consistent process, a lot of the districts do not allow parents to write as much as they would want to support their cases. There are very limited spaces on some of the forms. On some of them, they only limit the parents to 500 characters in terms of turning in the application and providing the reasons. Some do not allow for documentation. So in one of the new amended language that asks parents or asks the county board to review any additional information that was not provided to the county board, there are many cases where we see where there was relevant information that was left out that only because of our policy we were able to flesh out. Also, my concern, actually, the county's concern is that if let us say that we do find that the information hadn't been produced or it had been improperly excluded, if we're looking at the language similar to the expulsion hearings, we would remand the case back to the district. So what would happen in this case? Are we remanding it back to the district for them to then have to review the case, the reasons, because they were not allowed to provide that information in the first place? And then would that not then prolong the case even longer than necessary?
Alanine Mack with the Association of California School Administrators. We also have some concerns with the bill. I believe that they've been articulated quite well by the representatives from LA County Office of Education. That's similar with the majority of our members that work in county offices, the concern with some of the language that's written in the bill and the timelines. That's in the rest of the requirements. Those are the things that we're certainly concerned with as we move forward. I think LA County is certainly unique in their perspective since they have so many appeals that come forth to them, that it's unique. But I think that some of our other larger counties also will be facing similar restrictions. Thank you.
Other witnesses in opposition? Are there questions by members of the panel? I just want to be clear that what is really being added now is basically that the County Board of Education shall be limited to the following questions: just whether the district acted in accordance with an inter-district attendance agreement where applicable, only when it's applicable, so they follow that. You're also adding whether a district followed the district's policy on inter-district attendance. You're also adding whether the district provided the parent or guardian with an opportunity to provide information relevant to the inter-district attendance request. And the fourth one we've amended, and that was originally you would ask whether there was relevant and material evidence that was not considered by the district, and you've agreed to an amendment that says where there is relevant information, so you're making it less evidential and less legal, and just saying where there's relevant information which in the exercise of reasonable diligence could not have been produced or which was improperly excluded at the hearing before the district governing board. That's all you are adding. And so, and you've struck the part about the 2 months decision making and then it going back to the money following back to the school's district of residence. So when we're talking about concerns, those are the additional parts. And so I'd really like us to restrict the argument to exactly what Senator Wright is doing and not in the amended version. Is there a
Yes, Senator. Thank you very much. Again, Pamela Gibbs, representing Los Angeles County Office of Education. One issue that we do have with following the district's policy is that LACO does not handle the inter-district appeals in a vacuum. We do have district personnel there at the hearings, pre-hearing and up through the staff level hearings. They have an opportunity to weigh in there and to convey what their district policy is, and we do take that into consideration.
Thank you. Senator Runner.
Well, I have a little bit of concern as far as limiting the opportunity for the students. In your opposition letter, you had about 9 statements of different and varying reasons that you actually allow the inter-district transfer. Do you want to just mention a few of those that wouldn't fit under this 4 criteria?
Under the fourth criteria?
Under your opposition letter, you had various reasons that you would allow an inter-district transfer as the county that I don't think would fall under these 4 specific questions that Senator Wright's bill would cover.
Well, not specifically, but I think during our process, we do have an opportunity to hear from the districts and consider their policies and various other items as well. Maria, would you like to address?
Maria Bravo again from LA County Office of Education. If we are going to limit what the district has in their policy, and as Dr. Thompson had indicated earlier, we're looking, some districts have only 3 criteria up to 8 criteria that they're looking at. So if we're limited to only those 3 criteria, then how do we properly listen to what the parents' issues are? For example, there are some districts who will not consider child care issues or having siblings already on this campus. They will not look at geographic distance, but it's completely out of their criteria or their scope of review. So when they come to the county, we're actually looking at all the different components. So if the parents do bring up child care, then we ask them, what is it about the child care issue? Is it because you're getting free child care that you would otherwise not receive if you had to take the student to the school of residence, or because of geographic distances that would otherwise become a hardship for the parent. So that's the issue that we're having, that districts will have their own criteria based on what they believe is suitable for their district, but it isn't suitable for all students. And because all the districts don't have consistent criteria, we should look at one that is consistent throughout the districts. And we have 80 school districts.
I am concerned about that. Just the fact that there are 80 districts, and I represent LA County, so there's a lot more in my district than just LA Unified. Yes.
Los Angeles Unified does have like 3 criteria for permits, but one of those is an exception category where the parent gets to expand their story and share it. And there is a small space on the application, except we also say if what you want to share doesn't fit here, please write it out and you can upload that with the rest of your application. And we look at every document that the parent presents. When I'm listening to this today, I think when the number 4 really covers what Ms. Bravo is already sharing about. Meaning, if the parent is applying on child care for an exception and we haven't issued it and it goes to appeal, and there's other factors that get brought up that the parent didn't share, and they look at their factors that they review, all those pieces will come together under number 4 and will still catch and help that parent in that process. So, and we look at everything. I can only speak for my district because that's where I'm coming from. But I know this is a very traumatic thing for parents. We want to appreciate that, and we review each case individually. And the criteria, we feel that number 4 covers all the areas that Ms. Bravo was just speaking about and captures it. Because if that didn't come up during the process where we've now talked with a parent or allowed them to furnish that information during the appeal, it gets caught in the next round when it goes to the LA County Office of Ed.
Mr. Chair, Virginia Strawn Martin again from LA Unified. I'd also like to mention that, I think LA Unified has proven that they are very, very receptive and sensitive to parents' needs, with over 10,000 of these interdistrict transfers being granted by the district in the last year. So I do think that we do bend over backwards in terms of identifying what the student and the parent needs. And I, too, would say that number 4 does, in fact, include any other material evidence, or not only material evidence, but information that may not have been brought up at the local district hearing could now be brought up. I think that really opens the door for pretty much anything that a parent might have wished to share. So I would ask the committee for your aye vote on this measure.
Thank you. Are there other members that wish to address? Is there Senator, would you like to close? Would you like to address any of these issues and close?
Well, I think what this points out is a need for some certainty, and if you're going to make an error in judgment, if there's an error in the process, that we err on the side of the parent and the child. That's what this bill attempts to do, is to provide that level of certainty as best you can in a process that is itself, as they pointed out, some schools have 8 rules, some have 2, many of them don't want to do the transfer at all. So you want to make sure that there's an appeal process and that those parents who have that wish to transfer have the opportunity to do that and recognize that there's a fair process by which they can achieve that.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the bill? The bill has been moved by Senator Hancock as amended, and we've gone through the amendments, including the technical amendments in comment 6, and the other amendments striking out those sections 2 and 3, and just what we said, yes, fixing, I think, item number 4, which on the review by the county boards of education. With that, will the secretary please call the roll on on the bill SB 268 as amended?
SB 268 do pass as amended to approves. Lowenthal.
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Runner.
No.
Runner, no. Alquist. Blakesley. Blakesley, no. Hancock. Hancock, aye. Huff? Huff, no. Lou? Lou, aye. Price? Price, aye. Semidian? Semidian, aye. Vargas? Vargas, aye. 6-3.
Are we missing anybody? You have sufficient votes for passage. We'll hold the roll open for the absent member. Thank you, Senator Wright.
Thank you.
Now, you're also going to present SB 774? No, I'm sorry, SB 675.
Okay.
SB 675.
It scared me for a minute.
No, just keeping Senator Hancock on her toes.
Mr. Chair and members, this is obviously a non-controversial, very simple bill. As many of you know, I spent a lot of my time legislatively and otherwise going all the way back to both as a staff person and as an assembly member dealing with private post-secondary schools. This, I believe, is a fairly straightforward measure that would say that there'd be a proficiency test for those persons entering the school. The concern becomes is that if a person enrolls in a class and they're going to get a student loan on that class, you'd like to hope that they have an opportunity to pass the class and succeed. What often is the case is that this person may not be qualified. The school knows that this person enrolls in the class. He's got a federally insured student loan. The school gets the loan. This person has a debt that cannot be vacated in bankruptcy. So this loan that you get from a federally insured student loan will follow him or her to the grave. The opportunity here is to say that we have an opportunity to make sure that that person who's taking the class, whatever it is that there's some expectation that they'd be able to succeed. So if the class is being taught in English and this person is not proficient in English, the likelihood that they're going to be in default, the likelihood that they're going to end up with debt that they'll have a difficult time repaying. Yeah, and let me point out again that there are technical amendments in the analysis, Mr. Chair. We would take those as author's amendments.
You'll accept all those?
Yes.
I don't need to go through and list them, but all the amendments that are listed in the analysis, you will accept as author's amendments?
Yes.
Thank
and
you.
Let me recognize Elena Ackel, who I've actually known for the better part of 35 years. She is probably one of the national experts in this field. Worked on the Waters Act, worked on the bill that I did in '97 when we moved this agency to the Department of Consumer Affairs. Probably, the preeminent person in this field, Elena Ackel, is who I've been working with. And I'll say, too, we have gotten better somewhat than it was when I first came to Sacramento with Assemblywoman Waters back in 1976, when people used to go to housing developments and unemployment offices with clipboards recruiting people to some cases where the school didn't even exist for the purpose of getting the student loan. We had people who were being chased around by credit agencies, Mr. Chair, members. We are better than that somewhat, but we are not quite where we should be. This was a provision that we believe should have been in the Portantino bill that was done in the last session. With that, Ms. Ackel, I would defer, if I could, Mr. Chair, my expert witness in this field.
Welcome.
Welcome.
It's a nice introduction.
My name is Elena Ackel, and I'm a senior attorney with the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles. We're seeing more of these complaints than we ordinarily would because we have a grant from the United Nations to deal with torture victims. So now we're not only receiving complaints from Los Angeles, but Orange County and San Bernardino, and that's really how we found out what was going on with respect to enrolling people that didn't speak English. In the current year, there's a series of hearings that are taking place in Washington by the Senate Help Committee, which includes education. And those committee hearings have prove that there's systemic misrepresentations made by trade school, and there's extremely high default rate of students attending those for-profit institutions, and a very low completion rate. And for example, those students only make up 10% of the post-secondary students, but they count for 47% of the defaults. And those that don't finish the course even have a higher rate of default. And the type of students that we're dealing with are people that have really a low education in their own country, and those that have finished their education in the United States. And with respect to those, there's no protection in current law to protect people that are not proficient in English. In the prior Maxine Waters law, there was a provision that before a student could be enrolled, they had to take an English proficiency test, whether or not they had graduated from high school. And the reason that the current law is not sufficient is because it relies on the ability to benefit test, but that only applies to people that are not high school graduates or do not have the equivalent. We have a number of online high schools. One of them is Taylor, so you can go and see where the diploma, there's even grammatical mistakes in the diploma. What those people do is the schools that use such online high school, they advertise in Spanish in the local throwaway, the penny savers, and they say they can help them get a high school degree and training. And when they go to the school puts them in another room, they call up, they take a test where they're given the answers, and they get a high school diploma, and not only a diploma, but a transcript that shows that they got the grades they got in algebra and trigonometry and such like. So this bill is very important because it doesn't permit the phony high school diploma. It requires that the person has completed the courses they would have to go to go to college, a public college in California. And the other reason that it's not sufficient is we have another group that are trying to go and get a degree here. They have completed and got a high school diploma or the equivalent in adult school, continuation school, or finished up and got a high school certificate of completion. But they don't have to pass the exam that is required of high school graduates in order to get financial aid and enroll in school, because the definition says that you have to have a certificate of completion of high school or an equivalent. The feds have been trying to deal with this problem, but there's no solution as of yet. And so that's why this bill includes a definition of what a high school diploma is. And what we want to do is just to protect this group of students and to prevent them from getting a debt they can't pay. And because there's no statute of limitation, the debt does follow them to their grave. And we have a lot of people coming in that are so exasperated because they have this debt of $20,000 and they've defaulted, so they can't get a Pell Grant, they can't get a Cal Grant to go and get education at a community college, and they need that help in order to the financial help in order to complete their education and actually learn a skill so they can pay that debt. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. But we have been seeing at Legal Aid a lot of the first type with the phony high school diplomas, but we've also started to see the second type, the people that have limited education in the U.S. and they probably could take a simple course, but they're not able to take a degree course with the general education requirements. But by the time they drop out, they have a debt of $20,000 that keeps increasing over their lifetime, and they're never able to pay.
Other witnesses in support?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Senators. Joshua Golka with the California School Employees Association. For all of the reasons previously stated, we are also in support.
Are there other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition?
morning, Mr. Chairman. Matt Back with Ackler and Associates on behalf of CAPS, the California Association of Private Post-Secondary Schools. We actually fully support the intent of this bill, but we can't support the provisions. So we are opposed to SB 675 as amended, and I do appreciate the committee amendments. I do think they help to narrow some of the definitions, but we still cannot support the bill. I know there are some who have a long history with this sector and may not want to believe this, but our schools do care about our students. We are truly trying to educate these students who maybe don't fit into the traditional four-year degree programs. And it's not in our best interest to take a student in who's not going to be able to fulfill the requirements of that school or that program. As you all know, we now have new Cal Grant provisions. The federal government has significant provisions dealing with loan default, with placement rates, graduation rates, et cetera. There's no benefit for us to take in this student who's not going to graduate, and then we're going to be held responsible for all of the oversight of state, federal government, as well as our accrediting bodies. We are, most of our schools are accredited, and these accrediting bodies are looking at what we're doing as well. So to this point, I actually question, and I appreciate the previous witness, but I question how many schools are actually doing this. And if they are, let's go after them. What are these phony diplomas? Let's set standards for diplomas. Let's go after the schools who are engaging in this behavior. I have no problems with that, and I encourage us to do that. To that point, AB 48, which was a bipartisan measure supported by this legislature just about 18 months ago, set up the Bureau of Private Post-Secondary Education. They have drafted and implemented hundreds of pages of regulations. A lot of them deal with discipline. The Bureau can revoke the license of schools. They can literally shut them down. And I would argue that that is a much more effective tool than the private right of action that is in this bill. It's probably quicker, it's more efficient, and let's get rid of the bad schools. I have no problems with that. So
I do believe, though, that those discussions about the consumer protection and those rights will be really discussed in the next committee if this bill moves forward, and really are not germane.
I can't ignore the private right of action, though,
I know
sir.
you can,
Yeah.
but that's really not going to be, that's really why the bill was dual.
Well, I know we have the chairman here, and hopefully we can, if this bill does get out, we can have that discussion. But
I hope so.
It's more to highlight the fact that we do have disciplinary actions in place today to address these types of schools, if these schools exist. I mean, I haven't heard a single school name mentioned. I've heard various examples. I do not believe they're CAPS members. Maybe there's some rogue schools. Let's find out who they are. Let's go after them. That seems to be the premise of the bill, is the enforcement of the bad actors. So in closing, again, we respect the senator. Our firm works very closely with Senator Wright, but unfortunately we cannot support the provisions of this bill.
Thank you. Are there other witnesses in opposition? Members of the panel? Questions? Senator Price.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to, first of all, thank the senator for bringing this bill forward. I know he has been a real leader in this since his formative years in the legislature as a staffer. I'm prepared to provide certainly a courtesy vote in support of it. As mentioned, it is going to be referred to B&P, which I chair, and so many of these consumer-related issues, I think, will be further fleshed out. But I think it's an important start, and I'm prepared to move the bill.
Thank you. So the bill's been moved by Senator Price. Are there any other comments? Senator Vargas.
I do have some concerns with the bill. My concerns, the issue that was brought up, placement rates, the graduation rates, accreditation. There does seem to be a number of things in place now that would discourage these schools from going out and trying to get people that couldn't pass. It seems to me that there are things in place. Why, if they're not, why isn't the Bureau doing something about that now that it's been created?
The Bureau is underfunded, and there is required to be a complaint process by the program integrity, the federal rules, but they don't have the staff, and so they even admit in the advisory meetings that they haven't investigated any of the complaints. They're not the full staff, and in its prior life, the Bureau of Private Post-Secondary Education never closed any school. It only took an action against one very bad school, and they were stymied by a technicality, and they didn't pursue it. So leaving it to the Bureau isn't necessarily the answer, because they have no track record of enforcing the law. And the current provision, although it was bipartisan, there are very few student protections. The terms for defining completion and placement are very general, and there's no significant consumer protection in that bill.
If I added something to your point, Senator Vargas, one of the protections that used to exist when my bill from 97 sunset was that we used to hold the money, so that what you had is that the student had an opportunity to appeal, but there was also money that was still being held, so he had a cause of action because you were holding money. That portion in the extended bill was taken out. So again, the problem is now is that as the student, what happens to the school is probably irrelevant to you. The fact is that you're still on the hook for the money, and the federal government makes clear that whatever happened between you and the school is between you and the school. But whatever happens between you and the federal government, you're on the hook for it. So that student under current statutes doesn't have a cause of action to rectify the fact that they lost the money. Thus, in the bill, the concern about trying to provide the student some remedy. That remedy, again, was taken out when the bill that I was the author of an extension, slight change to the Maxine Waters Act, but the current iteration does not have those student protections in it. So that's kind of a little bit of what we're trying to put back in, because at the end of the day, this is about the money. And those schools operate on a for-profit basis. And so you're trying to seek that protection for the student who, in this instance, won't have the ability to deal with the cash. I mean, if the school is put out of business, the hundreds of students who may have been disenfranchised, this is their only way to have any recourse.
Right, but I mean, there's also the issue of access. I mean, when you put hurdles in front of people that are English language learners, it also may create a barrier that they can't surpass. I mean, I do have concerns about that.
Okay.
I know that it's going to go to B&P, so I'll give it a courtesy vote today, but I will say that it's going to be very hard for me to support it there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Senator Blakesley.
Thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill forward. From listening to your presentation, I think I now understand the purpose of it, and it's coming from a very good place in terms of trying to provide consumer protections. My concern is whether or not true English proficiency at some designated level is necessary in every instance for all post-secondary types of educational goals. So, for example, I remember being in community college and taking welding classes. They didn't talk to me a lot about how to weld. They showed me, and I never became a very good welder. Hence, you can see I'm here. But it wasn't because of my lack of English proficiency. It was because of other limitations I have. Similarly, when it comes to culinary arts or construction trades, I could easily imagine that there may be post-secondary schools where one could learn the skill and become quite proficient and have a career they wouldn't otherwise have, though not achieve the level of proficiency that might be required by an English test when they're enrolling in that class. So I guess I would echo Senator Vargas' concern about whether or not we're creating an unnecessary barrier to opportunity.
Senator Blakes, I agree. One of the things I think we'll look at is, and it may be that if it's not a course that's based on writing and the proficiency in English, then we might be able to look at, if it be it welding or culinary arts or something like that. So many of the courses, however, and many of the classes do have a requirement that would be similar, and therein it might be a need to sort out a standard. I don't have it ready to go now because I'm as a person who is himself a blue collar kind of guy. I too am concerned that we don't create a barrier to someone to get an occupation. At the same time, many of the people in the classes that we're talking about believe that they're going to get something at the end of this rainbow, and it may or may not be there if they don't have the proficiencies that they believe going in. Thus we look at the high degree of default rates and the other things that go along with many of the schools. So I think we can balance.
Senator Wright, I think it's important also, Senator Blakesley, that one of the amendments that Senator Wright has agreed to take really deals with this very issue, and where the bill has been amended to delete the specific scores to be achieved. So we're not setting for all courses the same scores. What it does say, it requires the Bureau, by regulation to establish the cutoff scores necessary for any authorized English language proficiency exam. So depending upon, we're really leaving that if in fact the Bureau decides that the level of English proficiency in certain courses is less.
Question of the chair?
Yes.
So am I to understand then that this amendment number 4 would have different levels of English proficiency based on the type of coursework that would be required of a student, or is it one standard?
It could be done. It could have more based upon we give the board that discretion to do, the Bureau that discretion.
Then I'll be laying off looking at that language because that would be important to me, and I'll look forward to seeing it on the floor.
Okay, so we can discuss that and look at that further. But it was the intention of the amendment to provide that discretion to the Bureau.
Could I make one point? The English proficiency for the people that have a high school diploma, legitimate diploma, is focused on degree. So it's not focused on the diploma program. It's focused on a degree program where there's general education requirements, and we've seen the problem that the person does have some facility with the basic skills, but they fail the general education requirements and thus can't pass the course. So we're dealing with two groups of people. One, the people that have the phony high school degree, and the second group are people that got the high school certificate of completion in adult education, continuation school, or a few years in the United States. Those group, we're only talking about the degree courses. We want them to have basic English so they have a chance of passing the general education requirements, because that we see repeatedly is the stumbling block. They can understand the software because they have a facility for that, but they cannot pass those general education requirements. And so that is the focus. The one group that don't have a high school diploma, they have a phony high school degree, and the other group are the people that have legitimate high school completion or certificate, but they can't pass the other requirements of the degree course, so consequently they can't excel. And when they see that they failed all the general education requirements because they don't have the written ability to do a short report, they drop out. But at that point, they owe $20,000 and they're stuck. We're not talking about the people that are going to take a short-term course and they're going to learn how to be a phlebotomist or that. We're talking about degree courses. For the one group and the other group that has limited education, the phony high school degree, it is a disparate thing, but those are the two groups that we're seeing that are being ripped off currently, and those are the ones we want to protect. We don't want to protect people if there's no reason to do it. So that's the things that we would like to address.
All right. 1 second, Senator Alquist. Senator Runner first, and then Senator Alquist.
Well, I too am concerned about the bad apples that are out there. And do you have any kind of numbers that you can give us, and how many schools might be more prone to have students who don't actually finish the course or have the loans out there? Because to me, like Mr. Beck said, I really believe that we need to go after those schools that are actually hurting those students.
There are certain schools that are seen more often than others, but for the second course, the ones that are going degree courses, obviously they're not the people offering short-term courses. They're offering diploma, and Westwood is the one that we've seen problems with. And then the ones that we've seen problems with, the diploma, I'm not at liberty to say because the Inspector General of the United States wants me to hold off naming them. But if you want to see, go online and Taylor High School online diploma, and you can see how easy it is to get a high school diploma or high school certificate, along with the grades to show that you excelled in algebra and trigonometry.
So any kind of numbers as far as students that are fit in this category?
The students, no, I mean, I only have anecdotal about the people that actually come to us. And the ones that we've seen for the Phoning High School diploma, it's several schools, and the ones that we've seen for the other one is several schools. But it is not every school.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Alquist.
Thank you. I know, Senator Wright, that you've been dealing with this issue probably for at least the 14 years. I have known you back when we were co-presidents of the incoming class in the Assembly. And I do think there are some real issues. I think several things. One, we're limited by not having good data that actually points to what the real problems are. I mean, I definitely think there are some bad actors, but it would be really helpful in setting policy to have data that speaks to some of these issues. A question that I have is, when a person enrolls in a private post-secondary school, I hear this number, $20,000. Do they have to pay the $20,000 up front, or is it broken into parts where they pay it based on how they're able to succeed and what they're able to take? Because part of what I'm coming from is it's really important to allow students to succeed, and some will go beyond others in terms of what they might know at the beginning point. They might have more interest, more drive, more chance of opportunity of doing well. But I'm wondering, from the school's point of view, do they take the $20,000 in the beginning and that's it, or what are all the pieces of this?
You sign up by it's either a semester or a quarter, and there you have the tuition for the course, but it's broken down for federal financial aid. And the first year there's a pro rata refund up to like the 60%. But it's paid periodically. But the person can continue to go, and there's no if they have satisfactory progress, and that's another term that there isn't. But usually the people decide for themselves that are on the degree program, when they fail the number of the general education requirements, they drop out at that point. And the $20,000 is the figure that we've seen is what the cost of the first year or part of the year costs, and that's the bill that they're left to pay. Now, we're talking about a degree course.
I have another question, too.
And so, but the courses are actually $60,000, $70,000. Like, for example, the people that never get a job or that they can make the minimum payments are like chef. Okay. But that costs $40,000 and $50,000, and you're going to get a job paid $12 and $14 an hour. So it's going to be very hard.
So, as an example, for myself, as a daughter of a Greek immigrant, if I had enrolled in private post-secondary schools and I really didn't speak any English, and I take the first quarter, and I obviously don't do very well because I don't understand any English, and there's no provision for me to take a very basic, ESL class. Is there any counseling at these schools? Is there anyone who on a periodic basis would sit down with you and say, you know, you're really having a hard time. Maybe you need to go back to, maybe you need to go to a community college and take an ESL class, or, do you see where I'm going?
Yes, I see. And the course that you're talking, for the person that doesn't speak any English, they're not enrolling in the degree course. They're enrolling in a diploma.
Okay, I speak very little English, let's say.
And those usually are going to cost $10,000 to $15,000. But they tell them once they signed up, you've already lost your money, even though it's not the case, because the federal government requires that there be a pro rata refund up to the 60% of the course. But once they're in there, they usually have a bilingual teacher that can talk to them, but then all the books are in English, the tests are in English, but they give them the answers to the test, and they, you know, proceed through. So those people often finish the course, even though they haven't learned what they're supposed to learn in the course. But the other group, the degree,
they've been given answers, though?
Oh, yes, that happens all the time.
I know we're short on time.
And when we see them, they say that that's a valid learning technique.
What I will say at this point is that I certainly will support the bill in this committee. I think it's a very complex issue. I think there are some other pieces to it that need to be addressed. I'm not a lawyer. I majored in mathematics, and so I do think it's important that it go to the next committee. And I appreciate the amendment that was taken here in Education Committee. I think that goes a good way, and you might want to look at that even more to see under all scenarios. That's as much as we need. So I will be supporting it today, and I think it needs a little more tweaking. Thank you.
Senator, would you like to close?
You know, I appreciate the discussion. Certainly, again, appreciate the work with the staff. As we go through an economic downturn, members, if you turn on daytime television today, virtually every other ad on the independent stations is telling you how you can go to one of these schools and become a whatever it is you want to be in 6 weeks, or whatever the period of time is that the student loan will provide. And Senator Runner, I'll get you back the numbers, but we're talking about default rates for these schools that are often north of 65%. We're talking about dropout and failure rates that are plus 70%. It's kind of an average. Clearly, there are some good schools, and there's some that do great work, certainly in the technical side of training people to do specific tasks. And some of the schools do a very good job of that. The difficulty becomes those that are simply structured to just take in as much federally insured student loan money as they can possibly get, with no consideration about the education that's being provided. As we know, our own program is underfunded. We don't do the job much as we could. And many of the student protections that were in place in California were simply taken out and watered down. So again, whether if you're in South Los Angeles or parts of Long Beach, if you look at billboards, you look at newspaper ads, you look at TV, radio ads, there is a concerted campaign to round up as many of these people as can possibly be done. A number of the schools have been fined tens of millions of dollars by the federal government, but even then, the federal government is reluctant to take licenses away. A fine, I don't know, is a significant enough discouragement. I'm less, again, concerned about the school as much as I am concerned about the student. I'm trying in this bill to make amends so that the student has recourse, and we'll deal with the school in another instance. I'd ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. The bill has been moved by Senator Price do pass as amended to the Business, Professions, and Economic Development Committee. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Lowenthal?
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Runner?
No.
Runner, no. Alquist? Alquist, aye. Blakesley? Hancock? Huff? Lou? Price?
Aye.
Price, aye. Semidian? Vargas?
Aye.
Vargas, aye.
The bill has 4 votes. We'll place it on call for the absent member.
Thank you for the time, Mr. Chair.
Next, I'm going to make an announcement. Senate Bill 629 has been pulled. Lowenthal, Public Post-Secondary Education. After this exciting discussion, I decided to pull the bill. Senator Pavley. Where are you, Senator Pavley? Senator Blakesley, you know, there you are. Here we are.
Oh, there she is.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, you want to go ahead?
Well, let's start with Ms. Sure. We have such a large number. Senator, I'm going to, please, since Senator Pavley is here and she's not on the committee, I'm going to ask her to please move, we have half the audience here on this bill, which is wonderful. Consider this just kind of a practice. And I have to tell you, everybody knew their seat, knew where to go. This was really well done. But in the meantime, Senator Pavley, and we've almost presented half your bill anyway because we did that, so this should be relatively quick.
It should be very quick, although after listening to the last two items, But
you're not Senator Wright.
Yes. First of all, thank you very much for facilitating. I came in and out several times. I was out across the hall. I never knew when the close was actually going to be a close in that last
Same with us.
bill. I'd like to start by saying that in response to the staff concerns, be glad to take as author's amendment relating to establishing a better nexus between a parent's place of employment and school of attendance. Item number 2 on page 2 of the analysis, and I'll take that as an author's amendment, relates to part-time work on weekends and establishing a minimal amount of standard of actually working in the place where you'd like your child to go to school. So that would, I believe, take care of any overlapping issues with Senator Wright's bill. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
I
agree.
Saying yes. So
yes.
That's a good thing. This bill is one you've seen before. In fact, Senator Denham had carried it before. It just allows an opportunity for parents to continue to, with the permission of the 2 school districts involved, have their child attend a school in the place where they work. It's an important issue to many people in my district and probably is your district as well. Until July 1st of 2012, that's a year from July 1st of this year, existing law authorizes California students to attend a school in the district where a parent or guardian is employed rather than where the student resides. Such transfers are only authorized for periods of up to 5 years with the interdistrict transfer statute that's currently in the Ed Code. This just builds on existing law and extends the provision to go to 2017. I think the tightening up language of making sure there is that nexus takes care of the concerns that were issued.
What employment really means.
And it's important to pass it this year, obviously, because it doesn't go into effect to July 1st of next year. Decisions have to be made prior to the school year on where your child would go to school. So respectfully ask for your aye vote, and I have with me a few witnesses.
Witnesses in support.
I'm Mike Kilburn, representing the Orange County Department of Education, and you have heard this a number of times. We were the original sponsor of it. I can't remember back when. It was around 19, I don't know.
That's before they could drive.
Pretty close. It was about 19. It was somewhere around late 80s or early 90s. It was a late Assemblywoman Doris Allen's bill, and we were the sponsor of it. And it's been back periodically for reauthorization since then. It has proven to be an extremely successful bill. There have been a few changes to it along the way, but not really many. So it's proven to be an excellent bill, helped a lot of parents, a lot of students. So we certainly do appreciate your support.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Nancy Lacoste. I'm representing Long Beach Unified School District and Clovis Unified School District, and we're in strong support of the extension.
Mr. Chair, Jeff Frost, representing the school districts of Glendale, Burbank, Pasadena, and all of the school districts in Marin County in support of the bill.
Mr. Chair, Virginia Strawn Martin on behalf of LA Unified School District, and we do support the bill and thank the author for accepting the amendment and thanking your staff for working on it. We appreciate it.
Alden A. Mack with the Association of California School Administrators. We're also in support.
Witnesses in opposition? Members of the panel, is there a motion on the bill? Bill's been moved by Senator Runner. Senator Pavley, would you like to close? As amended.
As amended, I ask for your aye vote, and just to note again for the record, this only happens if both the district of residence and the receiving district accept the transfer.
Thank you. Recommendation is do pass as amended. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Lowenthal?
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Runner?
Aye.
Runner, aye. Alquist? Aye. Alquist, aye. Blakesley? Blakesley, aye. Hancock? Huff? Lou? Price? Aye. Price, aye. Semidian? Vargas? Vargas, aye. 6-0.
The bill has sufficient votes for passage. We're going to place it on call for the absent members.
Thank you very
Senator.
much.
All right, we've now gone through a practice. We're going to go back. Senator Blakesley, you know exactly where you're supposed to go. Those others, you can come up. You know your seats now. Welcome, Senator Blakesley.
Thank you, Chair. Committee, I'll make my remarks as briefly as possible so we have time to hear from the witnesses who have come up from the district. The problem we're seeking to address relates to the extraordinarily high dropout rates we deal with in California and the unusual circumstance that we have legislation in place currently which prevents young people from getting a GED unless they fall into one of a few categories. First, they have to be within 2 months of turning 18, or they have to be out of school, dropped out for fully 60 days or more, or third, they have to be incarcerated. Now, we don't think either of those three options are very good for getting a GED. We think there are better options and better paths, and one of them is operating in my district. It's a National Guard charter school program which targets at-risk students and creates wraparound services and a highly structured, disciplined environment to help these young people succeed in life. Up until very recently, our local district believed that they could offer GEDs to these students who came from all around the state to enroll in this National Guard program. And when we were under the mistaken impression that at age 17 you could take your GED, in 2007 we had 115 such students successfully pass. When we, or the school district, discovered that perhaps that we weren't in compliance with state law and needed to wait till a later point in time, that number of 115 fell to 14. So we're seeking to address what we think is an unintentional restriction and believe that law should be expanded to allow young people who are in fact turning their lives around to have this opportunity when they are in a place and time and circumstance where they're capable of taking a GED and be successful. So that is the purpose of this legislation, and the committee has recommended an amendment I'd like to speak to in a couple of minutes and perhaps have a little dialogue.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, maybe we can remember just to frame this, and we do welcome this dialogue. Framework is that this is a very successful program, and the committee agrees that a 17-year-old, the existing law is much too restrictive by restricting people until their age of 18 or 17 years, 10 months, whatever. And we appreciate that this successful program is put at risk for graduation and that you'll have more dropouts. But we believe that you're not alone. that there are other very successful programs also. And so we're saying we support you, but we'd like to go further. If we're doing statewide legislation, really, that we would like to extend the bill to apply to any 17-year-old who completes a curriculum leading to a high school diploma or a high school equivalency certificate that's provided in partnership, that degree is with either a school district, a charter school, or a county office of education. So we do not believe this will hurt you at all. We believe you have touched on a very, very important issue. We would just like to expand it. I think we can have that dialogue. Okay. But that's really where we're coming from. Supportive of the concept, but really don't want to just pick out and have people coming back from each particular kinds of programs to ask us. We believe that you have touched upon a concept that we think really needs to be expanded upon, and we do not believe you lose anything by taking more. But we'd like to hear your discussion on that and what the issues are around that. So I think that's the issue, really.
And what I'll do, with your permission, Chair, is speak to some of the issues after the testimony, and I'll just
ask hear the testimony and then
the witnesses to speak about
I just
their
wanted
program.
the witnesses to understand that's really the difference between between this committee and the author at this time. Witnesses in support.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Good morning, Senators. I appreciate the opportunity to testify before you this morning. In response to California's great dropout numbers, the National Guard has created a Youth Challenge program, which is a voluntary program for young men and young women who wish to turn their lives completely around rather than just do a credit recovery. Students volunteer to live under the guardianship of the National Guard for 5 full months. And in that 5 full months, they're undergoing many skills, many trainings as they develop their intellectual, their academic capabilities and skills. They're also developing their physical health, their emotional coping skills, the well-roundedness of their entire being. When a student is so at risk of dropping out that they are 17 years old and they have 30 credits to their name, or maybe 100 credits to their name, a high school diploma is so far out of reach that prior to 2008, when we were able to offer the GED, students saw that as being a very attainable, realistic goal that would be attached to their decision to enroll in our program. The uniqueness of our program is that young men and women decide to leave their family and their friends and their neighborhoods and their influences, whether they're good influences or bad influences, which is such a courageous decision. And the amount of change and progress that they encounter in our program builds a momentum that is a solution for them not only to their dropout nature, but to their life plan. So previous to 2008, that is, when they were able to take the GED, a 17-and-a-half-year-old would complete our program, and he or she could, if they passed that GED, they could enroll in community college, they could join the armed services, or they could enter the world of work. It was a continuance of the momentum they had built. When the school district informed us that they had mistakenly allowed us to do those GEDs, that the students had to not only have a military request, but they also needed to not attend school for 60 consecutive days. Well, that was a big halt to our program and to their success. Clearly, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's encouraging a dropout in order to take the GED. We have seen a 75% decline in the amount of students who are completing their GED with us as a result of the enforcement of that regulation. And we have found, as Senator Blakesley has introduced, that it is essential for our program and for our young men and women to be able to take that GED at the age of 17. I appreciate the opportunity.
Other witnesses in support.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Tyler Mickelson. I'm one of the senior cadets, graduated class 25 from Grizzly Youth Academy in San Luis Obispo. Like Mr. Piet was saying, it is a very challenging program, and it's also very, very helpful. Before I testify, I want to share a little bit of what I was before I went to Grizzly and how it's changed me. Before I went to Grizzly, I was very, very behind in credits. I was very low on them. There were a lot of things that tried to help me but weren't successful. I tried a continuation school, and that wasn't successful for me either. I went to Grizzly with 135 credits and left Grizzly with 185. So still way behind in credits as far as it goes for a high school diploma. I currently just finished an online course and 2 night school classes so I could receive my high school diploma at my current high school that I'm attending right now, Cordova High School. While I was at Grizzly, I was too young to obtain my GED. I would have been of age of 17 and 10 months on graduation. So I feel that being able to take the GED at a younger age will be able to help a lot more young people become successful educationally wise. Like Mr. Piet was saying, 115 down to 14 is a significant difference. One of the things that I want to stress this morning is having a GED is a bare minimum amount of education, but it's still something that could get you up on your feet and have you in a job working and go to the military. Just something under your belt saying that you went through the process of getting this education. It costs money to take your GED, but while attending Grizzly, they'll pay for your GED, which is something very successful for the student while they're attending that school or that charter school. A lot of people that come from my neighborhood and others' neighborhoods don't have that type of money that it costs to go out and sign up to take the GED. While attending Grizzly, they'll be able to pay for it, though, like I was saying. And that's something very beneficial and something that would be of a convenience for them to take while they were there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Chairman
Next witness. Yes.
Thank you. Chairman Lowenthal, Vice Chair Runner, thank you very much for allowing me to be here. My name is Alan Rohr, R-O-H-R-E-R. I'm here because I support SB 461. I am a parent of a recipient of a GED. He did receive that at Grizzly Youth Academy. I know that his life has changed drastically for the good. He was deficient on credits, and he was able to receive his GED. Now he's a successful member of a healthy society. He has a full-time job as a technician with a semiconductor company in Napa. He is going to college at Napa Valley Community College. He is very happy. We're so pleased and grateful. We're also pleased that Senator Blakesley has introduced this bill. Not only does that affect his district, but it affects the entire state of California. We're concerned with the 21% dropout rate, which is the equivalent of 114,000 children who are dropping out of school. We want to see them successful. We believe that this bill will do that, and we look for an aye when you vote. Thank you.
Thank you, and you must be very proud of your son.
I am. Thank you, Senator.
Other witnesses in support?
Yes. Good morning. I'm really excited to be here, and I think it's an honor that I get to come here and speak to all of you. Little intimidated, first time I've ever been here.
You're doing fine.
Okay. I have a son. He's currently enrolled in Grizzly Academy. And what I want to say to you, maybe that's a little bit different than these other folks, is I'm really concerned that my son has now turned himself around. He's going in the right direction. Everything's really great. But he's one of those kids that's not going to go to college. He doesn't want, he has no desire to do that, but he has found a passion in a trade school. So my concern is, and why this would be so beneficial for my son is, I'd like him to be able to get his GED and not have to go back to high school. Right now, where he stands, he'll be a junior. So he'll have to return to high school and then complete his high school there where he just came from. It would have been great had he been able to get a GED, and then in July he would have just stepped right into Wyatt Tech, which you guys are familiar with here in Sacramento, and started his life and moved on. As it is now, he'll be going back and finishing his high school there. So that point I just wanted to bring up. And again, Grizzly, as you guys have already heard, it's amazing what they've done with my son in just 2 months. He's a new man. Oh my gosh, he looks great. And other thing that has happened that's been really neat is his friends that he left at home that are not attending Grizzly, but they are already quitting smoking, becoming athletic. They just want to be able to be his friend when he gets back. So they are already becoming better human beings, not in the program, but just because it's important to them to be his friend. So kudos to Grizzly. They're an amazing place, and this bill would really help a lot of students. And thank you very much.
Thank
You
you.
made it.
And that wasn't so hard. No, not at all. Other witnesses in support.
Yes, my name is Paul Brown. I'm coming to you as an active member of the San Luis Obispo community. I spent 15 years there as a business owner, 4 years in the city council, and I'm currently employed as a law enforcement officer in a small coastal community, which is low socioeconomic and largely Hispanic. But probably one of the best experiences I've had in my life has been the connection I've had with the Grizzly Youth Academy. I spent time there as a platoon sergeant, as a cadre, being the military instructor for students such as a testified or referred to by the parents here. In addition to that, I'm currently on the local advisory group board for that. Have spent time as a mentor for 2 different cadets, and I've even had students who are graduates stay at my home temporarily until they found a better placement at the end. So I think I can really speak to what the program does for students, and the fact that I believe in it is the fact that I drove as far as I did to speak here today. But what I think we need to look at here is out of the 38 challenge programs throughout the nation, we have 36 of them allow students to take their GED at either 16 or 17 years old. There's only 2 challenge programs in the nation that don't allow them to do that, and both of them are here in California. So it's a matter of consistency both with the National Guard Challenge programs that we're trying to get here, as well as, more importantly, is we need to look at what is good for the students. Right now we're creating, we have an environment where kids who are 17 and a half, who are very short, the units that they have, they're going back to the high school environments where they previously didn't find success. They didn't find success in the typical secondary education environment, which is why they ended up in Grizzly in a highly structured environment. And they're going from that, and right now we're currently putting them back in the secondary education environment where they did not have success. Now, if I look back at history, I think it was Albert Einstein who said that repeating the same process, expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. But I guess Albert Einstein was also someone who didn't succeed in a typical education environment. So I think we need to be creative about the solutions for these students. Just because they're in this situation doesn't mean that they're not going to be productive members of society, but they need our help. And our help doesn't include putting them back in the same environment with the same pressures upon them that got them in trouble in the first place.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support.
Hello, my name is Chris Hunter. I'm also a community member from San Luis Obispo, and I also was a cadre for Angel Gate Academy, the Grizzly Academy, and also helped start up the Eastside Cadet Academy in San Jose. When going to the academy, the kids really need that structure and the change, and when they can achieve the GED and walk out of there with that in their hand, they have one more step for success. And so I'm here to tell you I really support this, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's nice to see such support for a school. Yes. We usually get people here complaining about school, so it's very nice. We do. So it's very nice to have parents and others who talk about how the school has, how the academy has turned their children around. And so I don't want this to continue to go on forever, but I am very pleased to hear the testimony.
I'm a parent also. My name is Paul Hartbauer, and my son was enrolled in the Grizzly Academy in January. And in the last 2 months, he's completely changed, and it was pretty much his last chance. He was expelled because of his academic, not enough credits from the high school he was in. It was pretty much destroyed his self-esteem, and he really went into the academy thinking he was failing, and he has changed in 2 months. He's not the same person, and he's really grown, and it's unbelievable how far he's come in 2 months, especially after 3.5 years of public high school, where he's done nothing but fail. And for the first time, he can tell me that he is succeeding and his grades are passing, which is amazing to me. He's not alone. 21.5% of the California high school students are not making it. They're not graduating. It's a huge number, and it's important that students that aren't going to get the credits necessary to graduate have another option, and that option is the GED. So I'm here to support Bill 461. It's very simple. It just lowers the age by 10 months, and it will allow a lot of students to go into programs after either work or into junior college or whatever education they need to succeed. And I am actually a person that went through a welding program, and it's given me a 33-year career in the inspection of bridges and welding, and I'm successful, and I want to see the kids coming out have the same opportunities.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you, and I congratulate you too. And it's nice to see another parent proud of their son. Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members. My name is Nicole Verga Bautista. I'm with the California Charter Schools Association, and we are here in support of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Senator, you know we support this school. We think it's been a one, but the question really, I think, before you is, should we maintain it at really just providing this access for those students who are at the Grizzly Youth Challenge Academy, or should we include them, use them as a model to include other schools that meet the same requirements and have the same? And that's really where we are. That's to me as the chair, because I think you've done an excellent job of talking about how the age requirements really have precluded students from graduating, increased. So our own policies, which were supposedly to help, really have hindered. And that's where we are.
And I like your instinct to try and map this solution to a larger population.
Right.
I think that is prudent. Obviously, I've approached this bill from the perspective of a very specific instance where I understood, or believe I understand, any unintended consequences.
Right.
Might I suggest that we work with your committee on trying to define what the scope should be? It would seem to me that continuation and community schools would be a natural target for this type of opportunity.
Absolutely.
Whether we go to absolutely every person enrolled in K through 12 in every district, I'd sure like to have a larger conversation with stakeholders before that actually became language in the bill.
Then what I'd like to do then is to possibly do the amendment? Or I would like to pass the bill with the understanding then that we will call this bill back if, in fact, we don't reach an agreement to deal with this. Because I think the amendment right now deals with your issue. But if you really want to have that discussion, do not want to take that amendment, I will have you have that discussion, but if you can't resolve that at that point as the bill, then I'm going to call the bill back.
Well, I just want to be sure I talk to school board association representatives and teacher representatives, make sure I understand.
I think we're on the same page.
Very good.
I think we're on the same page. Senator Ahlquist.
Thank you. I really like your bill, and I certainly understand the dropout rate is really high. I really hope, Senator Blakesley, that you will be able to amend the bill so that it will apply statewide, as Senator Lowenthal has suggested, because I have constituents in San Jose and Mountain View and Sunnyvale and Santa Clara and Gilroy who could benefit from this approach.
Very good.
Thank you, Senator Ahlquist. Senator Hancock.
Yeah, I will support the bill as well, and would like to explore with the author and with the Coast Guard, I guess. National Guard is what it is.
National Guard.
And with county superintendents and others, how this might apply to a broader perspective of students.
That's what we'd like to do, too.
You want to expand the GED possibility to a broader range of students. I'd like to look at this particular model or a variation of it, especially if there's funding attached to it, for a number of young people that end up in our juvenile facilities and really don't want to and should not be necessarily sent back to their neighborhoods, so that the residential option that is voluntary becomes, I think, something that could help with realignment that we're looking at in our correctional facilities right now, and would be an interesting approach. However, I do have a concern about how is it possible that students that have gone through the Grizzly Youth Challenge Academy, and maybe there's an administrator there from there, could pass the high school exit exam, or aren't they really able to pass the high school exit exam so they could have a high school diploma as opposed to a GED, because a GED is it's a floor, but it will let you go to community college, but it doesn't have the same value as a high school diploma.
Yes, you're right. And I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself earlier. My name is Paul Piet, and I'm the principal of the Grizzly Youth Academy. To your question, the high school exit exam is a requirement in the state of California to earn a high school diploma, but in conjunction with meeting a school district's credit requirements. When students come to us, they are frequently far at risk or far credit deficient that they can pass the high school exit exam. In fact, many of them have passed the exit exam. But the opportunity to earn back those credits and get that diploma is what's out of reach.
Interesting problem. We should look at that. Thanks.
Well, first Senator Alquist, Senator Runner, and then Senator Alquist.
Well, I have a personal story. I actually had a nephew who went through Grizzly Academy, and he learned really respect for authority, discipline, and came out really a different person. But would have been great if he could do his GED at the same time, because he ended up going back to high school and kind of getting in with the same friends. But it's a great program. We've been there. We went to his graduation, and it was a tremendous opportunity. I agree with Senator Hancock. We need to expand the program across the state.
I see that as another issue. I'm willing to work on that. But I think I'm in agreement that it's a great program. That is not the issue for us. The issue is, can we use this as a template or a model that other programs that are similar, that meet the same kinds of, and let's see what those requirements are, can also be eligible. Senator Alquist.
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, I'm very supportive and would like to become a co-author as it hopefully evolves into more of a statewide opportunity. I did forget to mention that I visited Grizzly many years ago with my late husband, Senator Al Alquist. And it's a fine program, and certainly whatever we can do to offer this opportunity, because it is just really so sad with the dropout rate the way it is. We need many more kinds of opportunities.
Great, thank you.
And I move the bill.
The bill's been moved. Senator Vargas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would echo what everyone has said. I'd also like to thank the parents. I would say this, though. In the case that we can't get an agreement with Senator Blakesley, I do think that we should take a look at how we can help this particular group.
Absolutely.
They've done a great job.
We are going to move this
bill. Make sure that they don't fall through the cracks.
Right. We're going to move this bill as is without the amendment. But I am requesting that the senator honor this, because we would like to call it back. At that time, if we can't come to an agreement on this, the committee will have another shot to protect this.
We will pray for Mr. Blakesley to see if he will harden not his heart. Thank you.
I think it's time to let Senator Price have a final word.
Thank you. That's right. I just wanted to just weigh in also. I think it's an exciting program and a real interesting model. Is it happening anyplace else in the state? Is this sort of a unique?
There are two such schools.
Where's the other facility?
Los Alamitos. Los Alamitos.
Does it operate similarly? Same number of kids? Same age?
There are 32 such programs nationwide. I believe there's a cost sharing of 70-30, 80-20. It's changed recently. So the federal government picks up a fairly significant component of the cost. And it's been hugely successful. And I think, as you heard from one of the earlier witnesses, California is the only state that has this artificial barrier. All the other programs around the nation allow the GEDs to be earned at a much earlier age.
And again, we are supportive of that. That is not the issue.
And how many youth are involved total?
Currently, there is over 350 youth involved.
In both programs?
Yes, and that happens twice a year, so that would be over 700 per year.
Yeah, keep up the good work.
Both programs, Los Alamitos and San Luis Obispo, the program is available to students throughout the state of California, so in every county, students are allowed to apply and come to our programs.
Senator, just before you close, I will accept that we will not ask you for an amendment. I will track this program. I will encourage you to not only support this program, but to see how other programs that meet the same kinds of criteria that we're asking, that we're providing for this program, and that is that any 17-year-old who completes a curriculum leading to a high school diploma or a high school equivalency certificate is what we're talking about, the GED, that's provided by or in partnership with a school district, a charter school, or a county office of education, which is what you do, which you have, also be eligible. And I'd like you to work on that and then work with our staff as you move this bill forward.
Thank you, Chair. We will definitely do that.
Thank you. With that, to move this bill, I think it's to... the bill has been moved by Senator Alquist to appropriations, or do pass?
Yes, do pass to appropriation.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Lowenthal?
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Runner?
Aye.
Runner, aye. Alquist? Aye. Alquist, aye. Blakesley?
Aye.
Blakesley, aye. Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. Huff? Lou? Price?
Aye.
Price, aye. Semidian? Vargas?
Aye.
Vargas, aye. 7-0.
Bill has 7 votes, sufficient for passage. We'll leave it open for the absent members. Thank you,
Chair.
Senator.
Thank you, Committee.
I believe our last bill is Senator Hancock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee.
Could people try to keep the noise down, because we have a bill presented.
I'm here to present SB 774, which relates to community college parking fees. It would allow the community college governing boards to increase the parking fees in community college districts from $40 a semester to $50 a semester, and attach an inflator to the fee cap. The fees could not, under any circumstances, do more than cover the increased costs of providing the parking. I'm happy to take the suggested amendments by the committee staff on page 3 of the analysis, to allow the increments to be in whole dollar increments to avoid annual adjustments in fractions of dollars. The last time the cap was raised was in 1988, over 20 years ago, and the parking fees are used to finance costs associated with security services, police, maintenance of parking lots and parking structures, site improvements, and equipment such as cameras and parking machines. Out of financial necessity, too many of our community colleges have been forced to fund parking-related improvements with general fund money, and we need that now to maintain course offerings and the opportunities for more students to attend community college. I respectfully ask for your aye vote, and with me today is Mark McDonald, representing our sponsors, Peralta and San Jose Evergreen Community College Districts, and Bonnie Slauson, representing the Community College League.
Thank you. Mark McDonald, McCallum Group, on behalf of a number of local community college districts: Kern, Los Angeles, Mount San Jacinto, Peralta, San Jose Evergreen, San Diego, Rio Hondo, community college districts. And the real issue with the bill is a number of districts are at or near the cap and are being forced to pull from their general fund to cover their parking-related services. And for every dollar that can't be used, for every dollar that needs to be used for parking services is a dollar that can't be used to offer course sections, offer student support services, and it's becoming increasingly difficult in these budgetary times, as we've experienced cuts over the last 3 years, are expecting cuts again in the coming year. This bill would increase the statewide cap. The local districts would still set the fee locally within that cap, but it would provide the flexibility to help them deal with the difficult budget times. And I'd appreciate your support. Thank you.
Other witnesses in support?
Yes. Mr. Chairman and Committee, Bonnie Slauson representing the Community College League, and I think both Senator Hancock and Mr. McDonald have expressed some of the key points about the bill, especially dollars out of the classroom. Many of these dollars would be needed to help with the public safety and security of those campuses, dealing with parking lots, lights at night. You know, over the various years, we've had various pieces of legislation that have called for increased lighting in school and community college parking lots. This will help to increase that security and to maintain it without taking dollars out of the classroom, and we appreciate your support on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other witnesses in support? Are there witnesses in opposition? Members of the committee? Is there a motion on the bill? The bill has been moved by Senator Ahlquist as amended, I think it is.
Yes.
Senator Hancock, would you like to close?
I would simply ask for your aye vote. I would note the bill also has some provisions in it to encourage carpools. So it works on many levels, and it will be a great advantage and help to our community colleges. I would ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. We're now SB 774 as amended. Secretary, please call the roll.
Lowenthal?
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Runner?
No.
Runner, no. Ahlquist? Ahlquist, aye. Blakesley? Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Huff? Blue? Price?
Aye.
Price, aye. Semidian? Vargas?
Aye.
Vargas, aye.
Sure. That bill has 5 votes, 1 short passage. We'll hold it open for the absent members. This concludes, members, all the presentations for today. I'm going to open the roll, ask the sergeants to call back the absent members, those members that have voted on all bills. Have a great day. Sam? Yeah, we're gonna open up the roll right now. Let's open up the roll right now. Let's go in file order. And will the secretary please indicate how the chair and the vice chair voted on each of the bills? SB 268, Senator Wright. I think that was as amended.
Yes. Lowenthal, the chair, voted aye. Vice chair, no. Ahlquist? Aye. Ahlquist, aye.
Huh?
7-3.
Was
So, that was it.
Ahlquist voted no? Did you see it? Okay, the bill has 7 votes. That bill is out. I thought you were on 7. No, this is not.
The right bill.
This is the right bill, SB 268. I believe you've already voted. The next bill is SB 381, Senator Pavley. I think that, too, is as amended.
As amended.
Secretary, please call the roll. Chair.
Chair voted aye. Vice chair, aye. Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. Huff?
Aye.
Huff, aye. Lou? Semidian? Aye. Semidian, aye. It's 9.
The bill has 9 votes. That bill is out. Next bill, SB 461, Blakesley, not as amended. I mean, without amendments. But working with the author.
Senator Lewis hasn't voted on these bills.
Okay, Senator, yeah, just
leave it open for her.
well, what is the present vote?
This one is 7-0. It's enough, but if you're leaving it on call to add on.
No.
Okay.
Please call the absent members.
Okay. SB 461, the chair voted aye. Vice chair, aye. Huff?
Aye.
Huff, aye. Lou? Semidian? Aye. Semidian, aye. 9-0.
That bill has 9 votes. That bill is out. Next bill, SB 629, Lowenthal, was pulled. Item number 5, SB 675, Wright, private post-secondary education, as amended.
To business and professions and economic development. Chair voted aye. Vice chair, no. Blakesley? Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. Huff? No. Huff, no. Blue? Semidion? Semidion, aye. 6-2.
The bill has 6 votes. That bill is out. Next bill, SB 774, Hancock.
It's due pass as amended. The chair voted aye. Vice chair, no. Blakesley?
Aye.
Blakesley, aye. Huff?
Aye.
Huff, aye. Lou? Semidion?
Aye.
Semidion, aye. 8-1.
Bill has 8 votes. Bill is out. This hearing is adjourned.